away on holidays in the August, and about 2 years ago, and Helena was complaining of pain in her chest or in her breast, and she was a bit swollen, a bit sore. And we were away up in Galway at the time, and on coming back she decided that she was going to have to go into the doctor and see. So she went into Airfield, into the local doctor, and he made an appointment for her to go down to Waterford. And she'd been in Waterford numerous times before with little bumps and lumps. So we'd had all the worries before, and really I thought this time it wasn't going to be any different. So in actual fact, I never even went. Let her off on her own. I was sitting down in a restaurant in Kilkenny having my dinner, and I got the call. She'd gone down to Waterford with her mum and her little boy at the time, and she rang and she said to me that she was crying, and she said to me that she had cancer. And I suppose it was a bit an awful shock, really, because someone turns around and tells you that, like, you think the worst. Trying to get my head around it in a couple of seconds, it's like your whole life changes drastically. I asked her where Max was and her mother, and she said, oh, they were out in the car. And she just said to me that she didn't want to be crying when she met Max, so she wanted to kind of get herself back together again, God bless her. So she went out to the car, and I said to her, are you going to be able to make it home? And she said, yeah, I'll drive home. So I rang my mum, got her to cancel the bookings I had left for the afternoon, told her what I was after hearing. She was a bit shocked as well, obviously. And I made my way home. And when I got home, we sat down at the kitchen table. I was expecting Helena to be a basket case when I got home. True to form, Helena was as strong as an ox about it, and I was the basket case. We sat at the table and kind of figured out what we were going to do. We had a week to think about this. How bad was it? Was it gone very far? Was it small? What was the treatments going to be? Unfortunately, at the time, we never knew. We didn't know anyone that had this, really, that we could actually talk to and ask him, what's the procedure now, other than the fact that we knew we had an appointment to meet Dr. O'Donoghue the following week. So for a week we had, I suppose, the cool-off period, I call it now, where you actually kind of think about what was going to happen. You get the information as best you can from friends or from doctors, and kind of you start biting on the bullets, and you kind of pull the straws and kind of hoping for the best. And Helena was very good about it. You'd think, if people knew me, that I'd be probably very strong about it, very talkative, and I'd be a big brave boy, but unfortunately I wasn't. And it hit me very hard. She went down to see Dr. O'Donoghue. The two of us went together. And I remember going into his office, and the nurse was with him, and he had all the scans, and he had the mammograms, and he had all the bits and pieces about Helena. And he turned around and he said, "This is good, bad news." And I remember the words kind of, I don't know, maybe after a whole week of waiting around trying to figure out what was going to be good or bad, it turned out that good, bad news was pretty good news considering what we thought we were going to get. And he said that this thing could be fought, and that you'd have to be in a positive mental attitude towards it. And I kind of said, well, Nina's been very positive anyway about it. So we came out, we had an appointment to meet the oncologist. So we went in to see Dr. O'Connor, and in hindsight now, she's a wonderful doctor, very good at her job, but I remember the day I met her with Helena, really it was more to be with Helena than it was to do with me, and she was more interested in Helena than me, which is understandable because Helena being the patient, and I probably asked the wrong questions anyway, so we didn't really get off to a flying start, to say the least. But I remember saying to her, "But doctor, this is good bad news," and I remember she said, her exact words were, "Mr. Butler, I don't deal in good and bad news, I deal in facts. Your wife has cancer." We both came out a small bit deflated, I suppose would be the word, because now it's really kind of, you know, you're being told lock, stock and four smoking barrels that you have it. And I kind of talk like, you have it, we have it, because really when Helena has it, or had it, I may as well have had it as well. The whole family may as well have had it. We came home, and within a week the treatment started. The treatment started a week later. We went into the hospital because Helena works in Luke's. We were blessed because she was able to get her chemo in Luke's. But it was very funny because prior to starting, Helena had to get a port put into her chest, so they would have easy access for the chemo and for bloods and the rest. So we went down to Waterford, and we had to wait, and Helena had her procedure, and at the same time there was another girl there, and she was getting the same procedure done, and they became good old buddies out of it. And obviously that girl was actually coming up to Kilkenny to have her treatments done at the same time, so they kind of became what they call the chemo buddies. So the first week actually started in the little porta cabin at the side of St. Luke's with the girls in the oncology, and we went in, and it's really kind of a funny place because there was older people there, there was younger people, and there was kind of myself and Helena and this other lady, and the girls were actually getting it done intravenously. It wasn't going to be done by drip, so the nurse had to be there with them, and two of them sat up in the chairs, and that girl's fiance at the time was sitting there as well. So it became a kind of real standing joke. We'd go in and we'd meet every second Thursday, go into the girls in the oncology, and the girls would go in and have their chemo. We'd all have a little bit of a laugh and a joke, talk to the nurses. Absolutely brilliant, couldn't ask for better. And it was kind of funny too because the girls and the nurses were able to give us a lot of information that possibly that we wouldn't have had. Now we got a good bit of information off of Solace in Waterford, but there's nothing like first-hand information where there's nurses there that could actually turn around and say, this is what's going to be happening next, and this is what will happen next, and this is what you're going to be doing, and this is how you're going to be feeling. And of course, with that as well, you had the good days and the bad days, when Helena would have been extremely sick. After Helena had her first session of chemo, we weren't really too sure how it was going to work out. It was just coming up to the rematch against Galway for the All-Ireland, and we had gone out the weekend previous, the two of us, and decided that it would be our last hurrah for a while before the chemo started. So the weekend of the second All-Ireland, we hadn't really planned on going out because we didn't know how Helena was going to be feeling. Was she going to be feeling bad or not? So a couple of the girls local in the village here had decided that whether we were going out or not, they were going to come up to the house and we were going to have a good shindig anyway, one way or the other. But as it transpired, Helena was good enough to go out. So we went down to the local pub here in Stonyford, and needless to say, we weren't drinking, we were drinking Coke to make up for the previous weekend. But they were the good days. Then once you got into the run of the chemo, things started to change drastically. She'd have good days and she'd have bad days. Usually the calendar worked on a 3-day bad day. You could have 2 days good. She'd be just getting better, and we were heading back into the county again to start session 2 or session 3. She was going to have 4 sessions of AC and then 4 sessions of Taxol. The bad days, I suppose, the bad days were bad. I suppose probably the hardest thing was when Helena started losing her hair. It became very evident straight away then that we were really in the throes of what chemo was all about. We have a little fella, a little boy at the time. He would have been 5 and a half. The doctor had said to us that we should try to explain to him that how sick his mammy was. But you think you'd find it very hard to explain to a 5-year-old that your mammy has cancer. But he was very good about it. And the school here in Stonyford were very good as well. Neighbours, couldn't ask for better. Friends, best in the world. I suppose the real, as I said, the real hardest thing was the day she decided that she wanted to shave her head. That she didn't want to look at the hair falling out. She asked me to get out to shave her, that I'd use on my own head. And that evening, she was up in the bathroom, up in the bedroom, and she sat down and I proceeded to cut her hair like I cut my own. As any woman would know, it's the pride and joy of any woman is her hair. Here I was, cutting it all off. Once it was cut, I'd say it was the one, maybe 2 or 3 times I saw her head after that. In the next 7 or 8 months, she never ever took the hat off or the scarf. I had gone off the previous day and I bought scarves in town, and of course, being a fella, obviously, I bought the wrong ones. So she had to go off, and she went down to Waterford. Again, this is where Solace came in, and they recommended a lady that she'd go to, that she could buy these hats off of. And a friend of ours had explained to us that there was a very good man here in Kilkenny called Kieran O'Gorman. He's a hair salon on Kieran Street, and Kieran could organise and sort out a hairpiece for Helena, or a wig, for when she wanted to go out and kind of feel like a woman and not maybe feel so much like she had cancer. So we organised to go down and see Kieran on a Saturday evening. And 7 o'clock in the evening, Kieran actually met myself and Helena, went through all the details, all the magazines. I mean, if you think back on it now, it's hilarious. We were looking at magazines of wigs. Now, me with no hair at all, and Helena at this stage with no hair, it was hard to figure out which one of us was actually sick. But we got the wig. Kieran was great. She came home. She used it a few times. When she'd go out, she'd feel that she'd need it. But then she got more and more used to wearing the scarf, or the headbands, or the hats. When she finished with the AC, she started the Taxol. And Taxol seemed to have taken a fierce toll on her. Whether it was just the fact that she'd done the AC and she was weak, but when she started Taxol, pains started, pains in her knees, pains in her joints, not feeling really well. The good days became less and less, to the point that they were nearly non-existent, whereas before you'd always have maybe 2 or 3 days prior to the next treatment you'd be good, or she'd feel better, or she'd tell me she felt better anyway. But with Taxol, things just took a nosedive. She felt really bad. As I said, pains, feeling ill, lying on the couch, not getting up, not being able to. Then we finished the chemo just coming up to Christmas, and we were trying to work it out. It's really strange when you think about it now, because the calendar didn't seem to matter anymore. It didn't matter whether it was the first of the month or the last of the month. It all kind of worked out on the basis of what days you'd feel good. Obviously with a little boy in the house and Santi coming, we had to kind of make it seem as normal as possible. And we booked in to go and see Santi in Mount Juliet, but Helena had specifically worked out the dates so that she would hopefully feel on a good day, that it would work out on a good day, which seems really strange when you have to kind of plan for stuff like that, because for most people it's a question of just, we're going there on the 25th or the 22nd and that would be it. We had to make sure that it was the last visit to Santi in Mount Juliet. And I remember going down and she was putting on the old brave face. Her brother had arrived and his kids and his wife and myself and Max. Christmas was a bit strange that year. I suppose coming up to Christmas Day now, she was really under pressure, trying to make it as normal as possible because of the Santi and everything else. But obviously, as you can imagine, there's nothing normal about cancer, and there's nothing normal about the fact that you're not feeling well and that you just can't get up. She did most of Christmas Day, but after that then it was a bad week. Then there was a break and we had to get into the radium, which is the next, what do you call it, the next sessions. Radium for Helena was going to be done down in what do you call it, down in Waterford. They run a bus here from Kilkenny, and it was very funny because Santi had brought Max a little quad bike, and when we were going off to visit Santi to get the quad bike, the lady that works with Santi happens to be working in that place as well, but she organised the bus, so she was able to tell us all about this. Again, we were just very lucky about people that we met that just happened to know somebody that could actually fill in the gaps for us. Helena got onto the radium bus with the rest of them. Every morning she'd leave Stonyford, they'd come and collect her outside the shop in Stonyford, and down she'd go with her friends on the bus. She did that for, I can't remember how many weeks, I think it was 20 something weeks, I'm not too sure now. In the beginning it wasn't so bad. Near the end she was very sore and very burnt. Seemingly it was to be expected. After that then it was kind of recovery time, and I suppose even now it is still recovery time. When Helena was diagnosed with cancer in Waterford, they gave her a folder package with all the relevant information, and one of the things in it was solace. And it was kind of very funny because I had run the year previous in Waterford for solace, and so I had heard about it, and I didn't really think I was ever going to be using the facilities, or that we were going to ever need the facilities to use them in the first place. But that's the trouble with cancer, it doesn't pick and choose who it takes or who it gives it to. They were very good to Helena. She went down on 2 occasions and met people like herself that were sick and had cancer, and like people that would probably have even come out of it on the other side, so that she could see that there was light at the end of the tunnel type of thing. But they also turned around and recommended that she go and visit a girl here in town called Denise O'Connell in Kilkenny, who provided Helena with reflexology, which is fierce important when you're going through the chemo process, because it helps to flush the system out a little bit quicker, so that you don't have a constant build-up from one chemo session to the next and next and next, because as the sessions develop, it does get an awful lot harder. Denise was a mind of information about what we were going through. I've met her a couple of times myself, and the things that she was able to tell me and the way she was able to put Helena at her ease about things and the people that she'd met and the comparisons, just to make you feel like that at the end of the day you're not on your own. There's other people there like you, and they're making their way through it, or they have gone through it. I mean, the trouble with cancer is that some people see it as a taboo, that you don't mention it, and others find it very strange when people are kind of talk openly about it, as if, you know, you shouldn't be talking about that. Unfortunately with cancer, it is a secret disease, but it can touch anybody. It touched us in a way that I'll probably never forget. I suppose we live in a very small village here in Stonyford, and I have to say that we have some fantastic friends here, and they couldn't do enough for us, you know, from people calling to the door with a dinner. Every day we went in to do our chemo session, there would be a dinner, a casserole or something like left at the house for us by a girl that we barely knew at the time. People came up out of the woodwork. Others turned around, took Max away on days out, gave us a break, gave him a break. Called to the house here to see how she was. On her good days, people organised to collect Max and bring him to school, bring him home from school. They seem like very small, insignificant things, but when you're under pressure, I was trying to work, Helena was trying to get better. Her mum, her brothers and her sister-in-law, my own brother, my mum, my dad, everyone done their own little bit in their own way. Some people are great facing sickness, other people are kind of a little bit standoffish, but they do it in their own way. We have a very big group of friends here in Stonyford. The beauty of living in a very small village, I suppose, is everybody knows everybody, and that made a massive difference to us, because if we had lived in a big town or a big city, you would just have been lost. They couldn't do enough. We spoke about we were going to have the cancer-free party when Helena was clear and better, and it seemed to be a focal point for a long time with a lot of people, that eventually this big party was going to happen in Stonyford and that we were going to rock the house down. I can't emphasise enough how important it is that you have people around you when you're sick, or when you're in, let's say in my position, I wasn't sick, but I may as well have been sick, because when Helena had it, I may as well have had it as well. We all may as well have had it. You know, it seemed to be a topic of discussion if I met someone on the town, or if I was in the city, and if I was in a shop, or how was Helena? And I mean, people ask our concern, but when you tell them, it's kind of like, oh my God, you know. And I'm saying, but it is good, she's getting better. But people only hear the word cancer, they don't hear the better bit. Cancer seems to be not just a life-threatening disease, it seems to be the death knell, when in actual fact, in a lot of cases, in most cases now, it's become something that's fightable and curable for a lot of lucky people. Now there are people that haven't been as lucky, and we all know someone that isn't and hasn't been as lucky. But at the same time, the idea of having a place here in Kilkenny for the people of Kilkenny, so that they could actually go in, even for ourselves, small stuff, information, the process that starts and how it finishes, how you kind of react to things, you know, things you need, small thing like a very simple thing like a medical card turned out to be an absolute nightmare, but there was no way in the wide earthly world that we could have actually done what we did with Helena unless she had a medical card. These are important things, and if you don't have the structure there where people can actually go in and get these things and get this information very quickly, because when someone is like in the situation Helena was in with sickness, we don't have time to queue up and wait. Everything's on a rush. I'm coming home to meet Max, I'm coming home to get a dinner, I'm coming home to collect Kamina's mum to bring her home to her own house because she's been out in our house for the last 2-3 days. You don't have time. What you need is you need quick answers. You need, not to say quick fixes, but like, you have enough problems to deal with cancer that you don't have the mindset nor the inclination where you need to turn around and say go looking for a medical card, looking for information on reflexology, looking for information on how you should be feeling after you've had your AC, or is Taxol so hard on your system. Where do you go about getting the bus to go down to Waterford to do the radium? How long will the radium last? Is it common that radium burns you? You know, these are all questions that we didn't know. You know, where do you go to get a simple thing like a wig? You know, these are really, they seem insignificant, but to a person who's suffering with cancer, they're big. And if they bothered Helena, they bothered me. Because if she wasn't happy, even with the small things, then obviously I wasn't going to be happy either. And I was trying to make as much of a normal life as possible out of an abnormal life that we were living. I would say, people say your life goes on hold for a year. Your life stops for a year. You live on a different planet. The clock doesn't seem to matter. It's not a 24-hour clock. The month isn't a month. It works on the basis of a 2-week on, 2-week off chemo session. And anyone that can actually make it easier on you and make it easier that you can actually function, it has to be a good thing. And that's why something like Kushnor is fierce important. I suppose to finish up, really, I'd like to just say that it was a great debt owed to the girls out in oncology for the job they do. It's an unbelievable job to be dealing with people that are so terminally, or even not even terminally, but just sick with cancer, and how the dignity that they give them, and the way that we all laughed and joked out there, which is unbelievable, and how they let us laugh and joke even worse. I suppose, and a very big thank you to Dr. Miriam O'Connor and Mr. O'Donoghue in Waterford as well, because I mean, without them, I don't know where we'd be right now. It seems surreal actually to be sitting here, even just looking into a camera, talking to you about what happened to us. But what's really important out of all this is that a place like Kushnor, that people actually see it, not just the people who are sick or have been sick, but people who are not sick see how important this place is. Because tomorrow it mightn't be you, but it could be someone you know, and it'd be nice to think that there is a place where you can go and you can get all this information, and you can meet people that are not feeling the best like yourself, and you can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, Helena was very strong about the whole thing when she had cancer, but there are people that aren't, and that go under, and what they have to be done is picked up. And if they meet somebody that's at a team morning, and it just happened to be organised by Kushnor, that's Kushnor working at its best. Because then people can see that it's not a life sentence. It's something that can be cured, and it's something that you can overcome. And that, like myself and Helena, we owe so many people a great debt for the fact that she's here. And if a small thing like making this film is going to make it that little bit different, well, that's terribly important. And it's very easy for me to say it, but people have to believe it as well. We have a great opportunity here in Kilkenny to have this facility, and with this facility comes peace of mind, and peace of mind is worth its weight in gold to somebody who's actually sick. And I think only people who are sick will understand it. But to anyone like myself, who wasn't sick but just happened to be sitting on the sideline, that's great peace of mind to know that she was feeling happy and she felt better because she met somebody else who was feeling the same as her, and she was able to get on. Now we're 2 years out. Helena is in a much better place. we're back normal, as normal can be. I mean, we still have our ups and downs like any married couple. I'm sure she has days when she wonders, will it ever come back again? And they're the things that you have to live with for the rest of your life. You're not going to know. But you take each day an awful lot better than I ever done before. We work off a different calendar now. We don't work off a 12-month calendar. I don't think I ever could again. I work on the basis that isn't it a good day today? And hopefully I try to do that every day. Some days I do it well and some days I don't.